15-Minute Mondays, your kickstart to week high-energy 15-minute episode on the Success Blueprint. I'm your host, Daniel Greg Johnson. Let's get right into it. Hello everybody, welcome back on the Success Blueprint. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. It is 15-minute Monday time. Welcome back. I'm glad you are here. Thank you for continuously coming back to the show. We are growing nicely. I still do want to remind you again, copy the episode link, share it with someone on Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, TikTok, wherever you communicate. Let us grow this together. Today, why your phone knows more about you than you do. But today, before we jump into the conversation, a quick thank you to our sponsor, Doc Marty. If you've been following the show for a while, you know that success in life and business doesn't happen when we simply react to problems once they arrive. It happens when we become proactive with the things that matter. And health sits at the center of everything. You can have the biggest goals in the world, but if your body and mind aren't functioning at their best, eventually everything else becomes harder. So thank you, Doc Marty, for supporting conversations that help people build better lives from the inside out. And I'm actually very excited. I just received my Mycomatrix, a 6-in-1 mushroom fusion, and I cannot wait to try it. Microbrain Prime has worked perfectly for me. My cognitive abilities, my focus, the mental clarity, it's incredible. And I've tested it thoroughly. I got off it for a month and I recognized it immediately because I learned a lot of text, and for some stuff that I do on the side, I have to learn text word by word, and it has improved my cognitive abilities amazingly. So head over to docmarty.com, and Success Blueprint listeners receive a discount of 20% on their first purchase. Use DAN20, DAN20. Okay, let's get back to the topic. Tribe. The other day I had one of those uncomfortable moments that felt strangely personal. My phone sent me the usual weekly screen time report. And like most weeks, I nearly swiped it away without thinking. I think many of us do that. We see the number, feel a tiny wave of guilt, and then move on quickly before our brains have time to process what we're looking at. But this time something made me stop. 5 hours and 47 minutes. My screen time. And I know I do a lot of research, I do a lot of reading and education on my phone. So it wasn't that dramatic, but it still sat with me because I think for a lot of people it's different. It's more social media, useless posts, scrolling stuff that really doesn't matter. Now maybe some of you are already thinking, Daniel, that isn't even that bad. Others are quietly hoping your own report never appears while you're listening to this episode. But the number itself wasn't really what got me. It was the realization that followed. I genuinely couldn't tell you where that time had gone. Not what app I was on, not what videos I watched, not what posts I read. I mean, where did a piece of my life actually disappear to? I had no record of what I really did, studying, research, because that's just what happens. Because none of us wake up in the morning and consciously say, today I'd really like to spend almost 6 hours refreshing feeds, or doing anything like that, reacting to strangers, watching videos I never searched for, and consuming things I'll barely remember a week from now. Nobody intentionally makes that decision, yet many of us somehow arrive there. Then later we sit wondering why our minds feel noisy, why we struggle to focus, why we feel emotionally tired despite never physically exerting ourselves, and why there are moments where we almost feel disconnected from ourselves. And that's where I want to make a statement today that might sound a little outrageous. Your phone may know more about who you're becoming than you do. Not because it's intelligent, not because it's listening to your conversations. Because attention leaves evidence, and your attention may be one of the most honest fingerprints of your life. So welcome to the 15-Minute Monday on the Success Blueprint, where we unpack how we get better at this thing called life and business. Today I want to talk about something sitting quietly underneath almost every area of our lives. Underneath leadership, performance, happiness, growth, business and relationships sits something much more fundamental, and that's attention, tribe. From my coaching experience, I know that many people believe they have a motivation problem when in reality they may have an attention problem. People constantly say things like, I can't focus anymore, Or I feel overwhelmed, or I don't feel like myself lately. Maybe we've accidentally been diagnosing the wrong issue entirely. Maybe we aren't broken. Maybe our attention has become fragmented, because where attention goes, identity tends to follow. And why does this episode matter? Why is this so important to me? Think about this for a moment. If I asked you what matters most in your life, most people would give a beautiful answer. Family, health, purpose, growth, peace, meaning, connection. Now imagine I could quietly compare those answers with the last 30 days of your attention patterns. Not your intentions, your attention. Because intentions and attention are often two very different things. Intentions say, I value peace, while attention says, I spent 3 hours consuming outrage and chaos. Intentions say, relationships matter most, while attention says, most of my free time disappeared into scrolling. Intentions tell us who we hope we are. Attention often reveals who we're becoming. And I think that's uncomfortable because somewhere right now there are rooms full of behavioral scientists, psychologists, and designers studying your attention tribe, and they're doing it with extraordinary precision. Their full-time job is understanding what captures your mind and how to keep it there for just a little longer, not forever, just a little longer, because attention compounds over time and eventually attention becomes identity. So what's the problem here? I think most people underestimate what repeated exposure actually does. We tend to believe life changes through dramatic moments. We imagine breakthroughs, massive decisions, and huge turning points. But when you really look at life honestly, identity rarely changes that way. Most identity shifts happen quietly. Tiny moments repeated over long periods of time. Nobody wakes up one morning and says, I think years of unconscious consumption have gradually changed how I think, what I value, and how I experience the world. Nobody says that. People simply wake up one day feeling disconnected and wonder what happened. Attention works a bit like water dripping onto stone. 1 drop means nothing. 2 drops seem insignificant. For a long time, nothing appears to happen at all. But enough time passes and landscapes begin changing. Because of repetition. That's it, guys. It's the repetition. But as per usual, today I want to give you a toolkit to fix this and to address this because it's so important. The first thing I would encourage you to do is start auditing your attention the same way you would audit your finances. Imagine opening your banking app and noticing money disappearing every day without understanding where it went. You would investigate immediately. You'd ask questions and want answers. And yet hours disappear from our lives constantly and we rarely stop to examine where they went. Tonight I want you to open your screen time report with curiosity instead of guilt. Don't judge yourself. Don't explain anything away. Just observe, because awareness often arrives before change. Secondly, stop asking what you're consuming and start asking who that consumption is slowly making you become. That question changes the conversation entirely because most things feel harmless in isolation. One video feels insignificant. One article doesn't matter. One moment of comparison seems harmless. But life rarely changes through isolated moments. Life changes through repetition. Repeated messages slowly become beliefs, and repeated emotions become patterns. Repeated patterns become identity. Human beings consistently underestimate what repeated exposure does over time. Thirdly, tribe, create friction. Right now, almost everything is frictionless. One swipe, one click, and one tap away is another piece of stimulation. Make things slightly harder. Move social media apps, remove unnecessary notifications. Log out occasionally. Tiny barriers can create surprisingly meaningful changes because human beings naturally follow the path of least resistance. Step number 4, stop giving your morning away. This one may hit some people hard because many of us wake up and within 60 seconds we're already inside somebody else's agenda. Messages, news, social media, opinions, and drama enter our nervous system before our own thoughts even have a chance to arrive. Spend 20 minutes with your own mind before entering everyone else's world. journal, walk, think, or simply sit quietly. Mornings often become emotional blueprints for the rest of the day. That's why I go to my coffee shop in the morning. I have my cup of coffee after I had water in the morning, and I sit there for an hour every day just to get ready and to be grateful and to think about what I'm going to do with my time intentionally. And finally, the last one, create what I call attention islands. Small spaces where your mind belongs entirely to you again. Walking, reading, gym, coffee, driving, reflection, or simply sitting outside. Moments where stimulation disappears and your own thoughts finally have room to breathe. Because when every empty moment gets filled, silence eventually starts feeling uncomfortable. And when silence becomes uncomfortable, tribe, reflection slowly disappears. And why does this matter so deeply to me? Why is this episode today so important? I think we've spent years asking the wrong question. People often ask, what do I want from life? But maybe life quietly asks us something first. Maybe life asks, what are you repeatedly paying attention to? Because attention plants seeds. Feed comparison long enough and insecurity grows. Feed outrage long enough and anger grows. Feed chaos long enough and eventually your inner world starts becoming chaotic too. The dangerous thing about attention is that it feels significant while it's happening. Nobody notices one gym session. Nobody notices one conversation. Nobody notices one decision. But repeat those things long enough and eventually they become alive. Let me give you some advanced strategies. This week, I want to leave you with 3 small experiments. The first is the parking lot test. Can you walk away from your car into a building without reaching for your phone? The second is the cue test. Can you stand in line and simply be present? Big question mark. The third is the silence test. Can you sit alone with your thoughts for 10 minutes without stimulation? And tell me what that feels like. Because sometimes what we discover isn't that we have a phone problem. Sometimes we discover we've forgotten what it feels like to sit with ourselves. And let me give you a weekly challenge. For the next 7 days, I don't want you to detox, optimize, or dramatically change everything. I simply want you to observe. Become curious about your own behavior and ask yourself one uncomfortable question. If somebody studied my attention for the next 30 days, what would they conclude matters most in my life? Not what I say matters, not what I hope matters, what actually matters. And tribe, if this episode made you stop and think, send it to somebody who constantly says they don't have enough time because maybe this conversation isn't really about time at all. Maybe it's about attention. And if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe to the Success Blueprint, where every week we unpack how we get better at this thing called life and business. Because your phone may not be stealing your identity. It might simply be revealing it. And maybe the real question isn't, what are you looking at? Maybe the better question is, who are you becoming while you're looking? And I hope that I see you next Monday, guys. That's what I want to leave you with. I hope that you enjoyed it. Copy the episode link, send it to 3 people. Please do that favor for me. And I hope that you have a fantastic week. This was important to me. And that was Daniel Craig Johnson, your host on the Success Blueprint, with my promise, I'll be back.